Let's understand the PMBOK guide. Before we get into the discussion, let me answer to the question that many students ask. How important is it to read the PMBOK guide? Do I have to really read it line by line, or is it enough if I just skim through it? Let me answer to that straight. PMBOK is a reference. That's the Bible for the examination. So, one must go through it completely and thoroughly. Any tutorial, whatever it is, let it be in any form, book, blog, audio, video, flashcard, or you just name it, cannot, again I'm repeating, cannot replace the PMBOK guide. They can only support. I'm even including this discussion that we are currently having. Yes, I really mean it. PMBOK is the Bible and PMBOK is the master. All the supporting material can help you to understand the PMBOK in a much easier and quicker way like this one. But nothing can replace the PMBOK. So, after watching all our discussion in this series, you must read the PMBOK at least 3 times. The first time, you need to skim through. During the second time, you should get into the details. You can compare your notes that you are currently taking along with this course with the PMBOK and add further notes as needed. In case of any difficulty in understanding the concept, come back to this discussion, rewatch it, refer your notes, take additional notes as needed, and go back to the PMBOK. Do it back and forth until you understand the concept completely and clearly. As mentioned a few seconds ago, if you paid serious attention to all our discussion and took enough notes, you will not face any challenges in understanding the concepts. I really mean it. As I said at the very beginning, we as a team spent a tremendous amount of effort and time in simplifying the PMBOK concept to prepare this series of discussion. Very importantly, we constantly update this series of lessons as and when we receive feedback from our students on the topics that they mention as difficult to understand. We simplify it, we re-record it, and we re-upload it. As you could see, all the concepts are explained in MindMap. In case of any change to be done in the lesson, even if it's a small one, then the entire lesson need to be re-recorded. These kind of changes are easier in standard PowerPoint style presentation where only the changes These kind of changes are easier in standard PowerPoint style presentation where only the changed slides need to be re-recorded. But we can't do it in MindMap presentation for the simple reason the continuity in the MindMap will be lost. So re-recording is the only option. And you can imagine the amount of effort required to redo it. But we never hesitate to do it. We constantly update the content and re-upload them. As a user, you won't even notice those differences. So, in case if you face any difficulty in understanding any of the concept, do let us know. We are happy to help you. And also, your feedback is so much valuable to us to improve the series of discussion. In fact, students like you are our drivers to bring simplicity in the series of discussion. As I said, if you have feedback, both positive and negative, or even constructive, or if you are in need of any help or support, I repeat, do not hesitate to contact us. We are here to help you out. All right, let's go back to the PMBOK. And you should read the PMBOK for the third and final time to do the review of all the topics along with your updated notes. I remember my olden days, the days I was preparing for the PMP examination. Just like every other student, I made the mistake of starting my journey with the PMBOK guide. No, absolutely there is nothing wrong in the PMBOK guide, but I failed to understand the structure, the relevance between one topic to the other. It made me crazy. I felt like PMBOK is a monster. But after going through a lot of material, then I got a fair idea what the PMBOK is all about, how is it organized, how to get maximum out of it. Only after that, things started looking familiar and easier. But I spent a lot of time to reach that stage. But here, we are going to make the process simplified and faster. You only need to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes to understand the PMBOK. Are you ready? Good, let's do it. First, let's start with the structure. This is super duper important. Unless you understand how the PMBOK guide is structured, you always feel that you are lost. I really mean it. In fact, many students have struggled in understanding the concept that is presented in the PMBOK guide just because they don't understand the big picture. Enough talking, time to jump in. If you haven't had a look at the PMBOK guide yet, I would strongly advise you to have a look at it now. Spend at least a few minutes, skim through it, pay attention on how the content is presented. This will help you in many ways, including understanding the big picture of everything about project management, how the process group and knowledge area are spread across. Also, this will address the $1,000,000 question about ITTO, which is whether or not to memorize them, or just remember them, or understand them, or leave it altogether. Have a look at the PMBOK and come back. Good. Now let's do it together. Take out your PMBOK guide, soft copy or physical copy. I really mean it. Take it out. Go to the page number where Roman letter 1 is mentioned. If you're using soft copy, it's in the page number 8. You can see table of content. Below that, part 1. The first chapter is introduction. The second chapter titled as the environment where the project operates. The third chapter is role of the project manager. It's in the page number 2 marked in Roman letter. The first 3 chapters gives a heads up to project and project management at a very high level. Out of these 3 chapters, so far we discussed the first 2, and of course we touched the knowledge area here and there. The third chapter is role of the project manager. Now let's go to the next page. If you're using hard copy, I'm referring to page number 3 marked in Roman letter. If you're using soft copy, then I'm referring to page number 10. It's chapter 4. Look at the title. As you could see, it's project, then something management. Here, chapter 4 is project integration management. Let's go to the next page. Chapter 5 is project scope management. Chapter 6, project schedule management, and so on. If you go further, you can see chapter 7 cost, chapter 8 quality, chapter 9 resources, chapter 10 communication, chapter 11 risk, chapter 12 procurement, and chapter 13 stakeholder management. Now go back to physical copy, page number 25, or if you are using soft copy, go to page number 64. You see a table, don't you? As you could see in vertical axis, all that we discussed are listed. These project plus keywords something such as integration, scope, schedule plus management are called as project knowledge area. So project integration management is the first knowledge area. Project scope management is the second knowledge area, and so on and so forth. Finally, project stakeholder management is the 10th knowledge area. So there are 10 knowledge area. Of course, we will be discussing them in detail as we progress. Now we are in the phase of understanding the big picture, so let's continue to do that. And in the horizontal axis, you're seeing initiation, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and finally closing. These are called as project management process group. The table is called as process group and knowledge area mapping table. Also, as you could see, at some intersection points between the process group and knowledge area, a process appears as well. Let's take an example. At intersection between the process group initiating and project integration management, that is 4.1, it's develop project charter. At intersection between planning process group and project integration management, you see 4.2, develop project management plan, and so on. These develop project charter, develop project management plan are called as process. Like develop project charter, develop project management plan, you could see there are 49 processes are listed in the table in total. Each of these processes are further explained in detail in the next page of PMBOK. Take an example, 4.1 develop project charter. This process is part of integration management knowledge area and belongs to initiating process group. So what is develop project charter? It's explained in later page of PMBOK guide. Let's go to physical page number 75 in soft copy, page number 104. Jump there, I mean it, go. Do you see the heading 4.1 develop project charter? Under the heading develop project charter, it's further divided as input, tools and techniques, and outputs. According to PMBOK guide, for each process, there are one or more inputs available, and those inputs are processed to deliver something as output. Let's take an example of preparing omelette. So, the process name is prepare omelette. What are the inputs required? 2 eggs, chopped onion, 1 teaspoon of pepper, half teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of oil. What are the tools and techniques required? Tools to mix the ingredients, a cup, a spoon. The technique, slow and gentle beating of egg. Pour the mixture over the hot pan into circle shape and wait for 2 minutes. Turn the side, wait for a minute. And the output of this process is a tasty omelette. Like the omelette preparation, developing project charter needs certain inputs, few tools and techniques, and there will be output. Some of these output become input to the next process sometimes. We will discuss them in detail shortly. Now let's go back. You see the relevant ITTOs listed under inputs, tools and techniques and outputs accordingly. Not just for 4.1 develop project charter, but also for every single process you can find input, tools and techniques and output. It's the identical structure that is followed out in the PMBOK, throughout the PMBOK in fact. Let's see what is inside 4.1 develop project charter. Input, tools and techniques and output. Under the input, you can see some elements such as number 1, business documents, and there are 2 sub-elements as business case and benefits management plan. Under input as next element, number 2, agreements, number 3, enterprise environmental factors, and so on. Under tools and techniques, you can see elements such as number 1, expert judgment, number 2, data gathering, under that few more sub-elements, and the list goes on. Similarly, under output, there are 2 elements. Number 1, project charter, number 2, assumption log. These elements that come under input, tools and techniques and outputs are explained further in the same section below. Let's take business document as example. It's explained in physical copy, page number 77, and in soft copy, page number 116. Let's go there. As you could see, what is business document? How is it relevant to the process are explained here. The same is for business case. Let's try another one. The next input in develop project charter is agreements. The explanation for agreements comes after the business document in later pages. It follows the same order as it appears in the table. Agreement is in physical copy, page number 75, and in soft copy, page number 117. I hope you are following with me with the physical or soft copy of PMBOK, not just what is presented here, right? Good. This is very, very important. That's why I asked. If you already did that, then I hope by now you got an idea on how the PMBOK is organized. Let's quickly summarize. Everything begins with a process group and knowledge area chart. For example, knowledge area project integration management as process such as develop project charter, develop project management plan, and so on. And each of this process will have inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. Under the input, tools and techniques and output heading, you can see respective elements. Each ITTO is explained in the same chapter, but at later pages, in the very same order as it appears on the table. This exact structure is followed in all the 10 knowledge area throughout the PMBOK. Now, let's go back to the PMBOK, physical page number 25, and soft copy, page number 64. The one that we just now discussed is 4.1, develop project charter. Let's look at the next one. 4.2, develop project management plan. This falls under planning process group and project integration management knowledge area. To understand the inputs, tools and techniques and outputs of 4.2 develop project management plan, let's jump to physical page number 82 in soft copy page number 112. As you could see, the inputs, tools and techniques and outputs listed, which is very similar to 4.1 develop project charter. By the way, Do you see some of the ITTOs are common between 4.1 Develop Project Charter and 4.2 Develop Project Management Plan, such as organizational process asserts and enterprise environmental factors? Let's look at that. If you go through the explanation of same input tools and techniques or output, in this example, it's enterprise environmental factor and organizational process asserts, you don't find them matching exactly because the context and relevance vary between develop project charter and develop project management plan. In case if they exactly match, then it's mentioned that described in section with name and few more points. Why is it so? Let's take an example. Garden tools. In your garden tool chest, you'll find all the tools available. But will you use all the tools for every single work? You won't, right? While cultivating the land, you might use digging fork, rake and shovel. While cleaning the weed, you might use weeder, hand cultivator. While watering the plant, you will use watering can, hose. So the tool that to be used is totally dependent on the nature of the work and the functionality of the tool. Similarly, enterprise environmental factors and organizational process asserts will have so many things inside, such as templates, standards, procedures, knowledge base, etc. I hope you remember the list. So, depending on the context where it is used, they get explained. Let's take another example, expert judgment. This tool used in both 4.1 Develop Project Charter and in 4.2 Develop Project Management Plan. The list of experts is endless. They vary largely based on the context. So, depending on where it is used, the explanation about will be shorter or longer and detailed. It's completely depending on the context and relevance, like the garden tool. The expert you use for develop project charter and develop project management plan will vary. This is the same style followed throughout the PMBOK, and this is the same style adopted in this course as well. We explain the details depending on the context and the relevance. Let's look at the summary of what we discussed so far. For that, we need to go back to page number 25 to have a look at the process group and knowledge area mapping table. The first 3 chapters of the PMBOK guide deals the fundamentals of project management. From section 4 till the end, it's divided based on knowledge area. There are 10 knowledge area and 5 process group. The process groups are divided as initiation, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and the last one, closing. Those processes are mapped against project something management, such as integration, scope, etc. They are called as knowledge areas. At the intersection of the process group and knowledge area, there are some processes, but not necessarily at every intersection. At the same time, intersections can have one or more processes as well. Each process will have inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. Each input, tools and techniques and output will have multiple elements in it. Those elements may be repeated all across other processes. Explanation, information, and details about the elements may vary depending on the context. That's all we have in the PMBOK. Not really, but the majority of the PMBOK. The mapped process group and knowledge area and the respective process covers almost 70% of the chapter in the PMBOK. Of course, the first 3 chapters of the PMBOK covers the fundamentals of projects and the knowledge area covers the rest. Of course, you do face questions from topics that are relevant to professional ethics that will be covered as a part of knowledge area, not as a separate chapter. So, if you go through the first 3 chapters and these ITTOs of each process, you have covered the entire PMBOK guide already. Sounds easy, right? Yes, it should be. As there are many repeating common ITTOs for most of the process, doing this should be a lot easier than you imagined. Trust me, as I mentioned in the beginning, not every student understood this big picture. So they struggle to understand what comes where and how is it applied in the whole PMBOK guide. At the end, it leads to confusion. But you are not going to get confused because by now you already know what is in the PMBOK. In case if it is not clear or confusing, do not hesitate to revisit the discussion once again, if needed multiple times, because this is the absolute basic. Feel free to write us if you still have questions.